First City Focus is supported in part by Duke Energy, powering the lives of its customers and communities. Online at duke-energy.com. Andy Ellerman of First City Wealth, serving Vincennes and surrounding communities to help with investing and planning for your future before and during retirement years. First City Wealth online at firstcitywealth.com. Colonial Assisted Living. Colonial is an assisted living residence promoting independence and dignity for each resident while providing the necessary assistance for daily living. Colonial Assisted Living, 1622 South Hart Street Road in Vincennes, 812-895-1504. And by donations contributed by Vincennes PBS viewers like you. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to First City Focus. I'm your host, Allyson Bowers. On this episode, we'll talk with the host of a popular PBS show and find out just why they've come to visit Indiana's first city. Then we will get a behind-the-scenes look at the making of an episode of Finding Festivals. And we'll get a glimpse of the latest episode of History Vault, looking into the past of the Rendezvous. We'll have these stories and more on this episode of First City Focus. Our area has plenty of fun-filled festivals, but how would you like to travel around the Midwest enjoying other communities' cultures and celebrations? That's just what our guest today, Haylie Robinson, does for her show, Finding Festivals. Thanks for joining me today, Haylie.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So tell me, what sparked the idea for creating a show about festivals?
So when I was 17, I actually was a festival queen and toured my state, kind of an ambassador role, and that's when it kind of hit me that I could be the next Samantha Brown, but in the world of festivals. And it took me about 12 years to finally do anything about it, but here I am. I have a season already under our belt, and we're checking out some of the festivals in the area.
Yeah. So each episode, what are you hoping your viewers learn?
Whatever the festival is really about. I mean, what's so fun about this show is the only commonality between episodes is the fact that it's an annual event. Because one episode we're off-roading in a Jeep, the next episode we're talking about horticulture in the cherry industry world, and you know, we've had episodes where we're talking about the Native American culture at the Saginaw Chippewa annual powwow. So it's really just, we want to learn about the culture and the tradition behind the specific event and just understand the why beyond the what and when.
So you just, the first season is completed, correct? How many episodes were you able to have for that season?
13. We went for the big 13, and the reason for that is when you have a full season like that, it makes it more attractive for other PBS stations to pick it up. So we knew that was the big magical number, and it was a lot of blood, sweat, tears, maybe some tantrums too. But we made it happen, and it's reached over 43 million households to date.
That's crazy, yeah. So what made you decide, yeah, we think we want to go ahead and do a second season?
You know, it was a young fan actually reached out from Indiana, and they said that they wanted to see more of their home state, and I thought, you know, maybe there is more to the show than even I originally perceived, and lo and behold, Indiana has a lot of cool events, and that's when I was like, you know what, I think we can pull off one more season. Let's do it.
Yeah. So how do you decide which festivals to go to and make episodes about?
So we actually try to theme each season. Season 1 was really about capturing the renaissance of festivals because we had seen 2 years without it. And I really wanted to kind of document what the renaissance of them coming back looked like, and also just establish the diversity of festivals. Season 2, we're actually leaning into the America 250 celebration, and we are exploring Americana through beloved community traditions. So we're really kind of diving into the history. So that's really what drove the overall curation of this season. I'm really excited. You know, right now we're in town for the Rendezvous, and it's going to kick off season 2. We're going to establish, you know, what America 250 is all about, which is the Revolutionary War that started this country. And then from there, we're going to kind of go through and interweave through America's history from different events. One event that we're looking at is the Edgar Allan Poe Festival in Baltimore, Maryland, to really talk about the literature impact that American culture has had, specifically through Edgar Allan Poe's works, and also selfishly, I'm a huge fan of Suzanne Collins, and his works does make an appearance in her recent novel of the Hunger Games. So I selfishly just want a reason to talk about it. And then there's a festival in Missouri we're looking at for the Route 66 Festival, because, what better vacation than Route 66? That's what everyone kind of aspires to do eventually in their lifetime. And really, again, we just want to learn about American culture and truly just the essence of Americana through what these local communities celebrate every year.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So you're here in Vincennes, and you're going to do a whole episode on the Rendezvous. How did you hear about the Spirit of Vincennes Rendezvous celebration?
Okay, I'm going to say this. I have spent almost 6 months looking for an event like this. Since last July is when I started kind of thinking about coming back, and I knew that I wanted to do America 250, kind of tie it in somehow. But I could not find any Revolutionary War kind of tie-ins until I went to the media marketplace that the state of Indiana puts on. I think it was back in February, March, and I met with Knox County Representative Janice, and she told me about this event, and I'm like, I have been looking for this since like last July. Where have you been? And she's like, I've been here. And I was just over the moon about this festival, because at that point I was kind of trying to figure out, should we come back? I'm just really having a hard time finding events that will fit. But once I found this event, that's when everything else just kind of fell in place. And I'm like, all right, I figured out the thread we're going to use to explore Americana.
Right, we're happy to be your capstone episode. How many hours go into making just one episode?
Oh, well, it depends. Because the one thing about this show that I think even other travel shows don't run into is that we are in the midst of the chaos of the festival. So it's very much like a run and gun kind of show in the sense that you have one chance to capture things. So I really look for a team that can handle almost like wedding videography. You get one chance. So as far as production, post-production, marketing, and then of course the research that happens prior, I would say anywhere between probably 100 to 200 hours minimum. And again, that kind of just depends how much research we do have to do, how much help we get, and whether or not there's rain that kind of puts us behind. Although luckily we've been really fortunate that even if there is rain, we just kind of, that's part of festivals.
Right, especially in the Midwest, right? Yes. They just keep going.
If it rains, you deal with it, which we've been fortunate. We haven't had to run into too many rain issues so far. Hopefully that keeps going. But yeah, and then editing, I actually edit the show myself.
Oh, wow.
And so season 1, I was working a full-time corporate job on top of researching every episode, writing every episode, directing episodes, editing every single episode, and then now I'm kind of managing the marketing and then back into the pre-production mode of researching what the season looks like. So it truly is a labor of love, but I really care about these communities and sharing their stories, and I'm so fortunate that PBS gives me an audience that social media just doesn't offer me at the moment.
Right. I mean, that's the heart of it, right? It's being local, and you get to go and experience different locals. So this is going to be on season 2. When is that going to premiere? When can people watch the episode about the Rendezvous?
So our goal is to have season 2 out by fall 2026, and that is assuming funding comes through as we are hoping. But of course, these shows are made by corporate sponsors and viewers like you. You're what helps make shows like mine happen. So of course, any support we can get, we greatly appreciate, and it will help us get the show out faster.
What is your favorite part of making a show? You said you do the pre-work, you do the post-work, you're there in the festival. What's your favorite part?
Just talking to the people. And really, my interviews, I've warned everyone that we're interviewing that I sometimes go rogue and it goes like 40 minutes long because I genuinely care about other people's passions, and I'm just there to help them be the expert and just share their passions. That's what fuels me and keeps me going, because when I hear how someone else cares about their community, it just ignites that spark in me that like this story has to come out and people need to hear this. And furthermore, if nothing else, I hope viewers just get inspired to get more involved in their own community.
Right. So you said this whole season 2 is kind of going to be about, Americana and the history of that. How many episodes are you hoping to have in season 2?
So this season we're going to go for 8 because funding's really kind of determining that. But luckily, since we already have 13, that will still give PBS stations about half a year of programming. So we'll still be filling your televisions.
Yeah, right. Making local content, like you said. What was the most fun episode to make in all of season 1?
Oh, that's like picking my favorite kid, because so much goes into each episode.
Right.
And they're so diverse. I mean, for me, kind of a dream come true festival for me was the Dublin Irish Festival, because I love Celtic culture. I grew up with Michael Flatley, so being there and seeing the Irish step and being in green, Haylie Story green of all things, was my favorite. But then also, I really was impacted by the Cleveland Diagaraja. And I went in not really knowing what to expect, and I came out of it. It was really a turning point for us, because at that point I completely ran out of funding. I had no idea if season 1 would ever see the light of day. And it was talking to the people, and one of the festival organizers said, "The Cleveland media doesn't come, but you came from Toledo." And that was the moment I'm like, this has to make the national market. Mm-hmm. These people, their story, their culture matters, and I have to make this happen. So it's just and there's stories like that in every single episode. So to a dream one, I think just being able to do this and do the thing I've dreamt of doing since I was 17 is all I could ever ask for.
Yeah, well, we hope that you find all of the wonder in Vincennes that all of the locals see here, and we cannot wait to see Vincennes and the Rendezvous celebration through your point of view, and we're excited for all of America to get to see our celebration on your show. So thank you so much today for joining me, Haylie. You can watch the entire first season of Finding Festivals on pbs.org. And our crew was able to get an exclusive behind-the-scenes point of view of the making of the Rendezvous episode, which will be featured in season 2 of Finding Festivals. Tessa Haig shows us now.
Yeah, so I mean, like
We'll keep you updated on when you can see that episode during season 2 of Finding Festivals. Well, how much time has actually passed between the Revolutionary War and when people started reenacting it for fun? Maybe not as much time as you would think. Let's find out more with a teaser of the latest episode of History Vault.
They had a contest for what they could call this thing.
Every year on Memorial Day weekend, the past awakens in southern Indiana. You hear the thundering crack of muskets. You smell wood smoke, leather, corn roasting over fire. You see soldiers, artisans, and children all stepping into another time. This is the Spirit of Vincennes Rendezvous. It's one of Indiana's largest Revolutionary War reenactments, drawing in thousands of people. Although Vincennes did not invent historical pageantry, it's been doing it for over a century.
As early as 1916, we put on a very elaborate pageant down by the Wabash River. The American Legion built the facade of a fort and rented all kinds of costumes from Chicago and dressed up all the local citizens. And they had French dances and Indian dances, and then George Rogers Clark and the capture of Vincennes, and then later on Tecumseh.
Throughout the years, many pageants and festivals came and went. But in 1976, everything changed.
There were 5 people that were recruited by Dr. Isaac Beckus, who was the president of Vincennes University, and he wanted to have some event that represented Vincennes and the university as well for the bicentennial, the national celebration in 1976. And so he picked Augie Schulteis, who was a member of his faculty on the campus. There was Junior Fisher and his wife that were local reenactors, that were candlestick makers. And then Marshall Miller, who was also kind of a well-known business person in the community. And then Mary Gladys Wheeler, whose early work was with the housing department in Vincennes, but she was also very well connected. So these 5 people came together and helped produce that original rendezvous, which was called something different at the time.
In 1977, they staged the battle over there on the VU campus. They also then, of course, had the encampment again over at the Clark Memorial, and they would, after the battles, would march of the mile to the Clark Memorial and their tents and all.
The next step was to give it a name and find a permanent home.
Of the success of this program they had, they decided to incorporate so that they could receive funds and disperse funds. They had a contest for what they could call this thing, and someone suggested that they call it the Spirit of Vincennes. And there were some that wanted to call it the Vincennes Rendezvous, so they came up with that, well, we'll call it the Spirit of Vincennes Rendezvous. Finally, in 1980, they persuaded the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad, which had a railroad siding running along parallel with Willow Street, to grant them to the 60-foot right-of-way from Willow Street back. And that was enough ground for them to stage a rather truncated kind of Revolutionary War battles. There had been a factory there. They had to plant trees, had to remove the rails and the ties from the railroad siding. They had to take that all down. And they also then initiated a program of building sheds for the different food groups that were going to come in there.
The rendezvous was growing, but in its early days, it looked a bit different than it does now.
They had canoe races, really big canoes, but of course they weren't able to continue that because it's a lot of work to paddle a canoe all the way down the Wabash from up north.
Our original merchants and trader people and our original entertainment people would basically do anything to draw a crowd, you know. So we had the Hoosier Harmonizers, which were barbershop quartets basically that sang on the stage. We had cloggers, and we had infamously the Glitter Girls and some people that came on stage because our entertainment director at the time thought, well, their parents, their grandparents, their aunts and uncles will all come to watch them perform. Well, those things were attracting people to our event, but they really weren't authentic to that period. But we did it because it drew in, our crowd at the time was local.
In time, the focus shifted. More accuracy, more authenticity. A push to take the rendezvous beyond Vincennes to the national stage.
As we became more historically accurate, we really saw a growth in the number of people that came from a wider area, because people liked coming here because it was truly authentic.
And it paid off.
It started out, I remember, it was just a few thousand people, and then within 10 years it was up around 20,000, and since then I think it's reached a peak of around 40,000 a year.
Then, in 2020, everything went silent. No smoke, no marching, no history.
We decided it would be best not to have the festival. We did a Facebook Live kind of announcement about that between myself and our attendance director to kind of let people know what was happening. This should be our 49th, and next year would be our 50th anniversary, but we did take a year off for COVID.
But the rendezvous returned, just as vibrant, just as dedicated as ever. For the people who keep this rendezvous alive, it's more than just an event.
This is sacred ground. Next to the old cathedral are soldiers of Clark's that are buried in that French and Indian burial ground. So there is that kind of history. They sense and they feel, and when they represent the people they're representing, they know directly the tie-in to them.
For some, it's a chance to honor the fallen. For others, it's about sharing their passion.
I myself would demonstrate calligraphy, and I would make bookmarks for people, free bookmarks with their name and choice, 16th century Italian italic. And that was good. That was one of the few things you could get at the Rendezvous that was absolutely free. Loved doing that.
Well, personally, I've always been a fan of history. My father, he was voluminous in his reading about history. When I was in middle school, in the Catholic schools, I gave tours of the old cathedral and the library. My enamoring of that kind of whole time period was always fresh in my mind, and so when this opportunity came up, I leaped at it because it was just directly tied into what I loved.
You have a lot of these reenactors from the 1970s and 80s that were very young and lithe and all that, like me. And then as the years go on, they're getting kind of old. And trying to pass it on to the next generation with some degree of success, but not as much as you would hope. There don't seem to be as many reenactors, I think, as there were in the past. Maybe 250th anniversary of the 4th of July, 1776, next year will rejuvenate them and increase the enthusiasm, just as the bicentennial did back in 1976.
From the sounds of muskets firing to the smell of sweet pies, the spirit of Vincennes lives on. And as long as people remember and return, the past will never truly be gone.
You can watch the full episode and all of the other episodes of History Vault on the Vincennes PBS YouTube channel. Honoring our past is such an important thing to do when shaping the future. In tonight's Final Focus, here are some highlights from the recent dedication of a new historical marker, commemorating Adam Gimbel and Gimbel's department store.
Film and television shows such as Miracle on 34th Street and I Love Lucy, 1950s.
I think this is an amazing event. I'm so happy this finally happened so that we can remember the Gimbels in a way that their legacy is finally honored. Extremely significant. They changed retail history and they really shaped Midwestern Jewish history here.
Smaller towns like Vincennes typically had one or two Jewish businesses and the residents in search of a more established community.
Big shout out to the city of Vincennes for helping to install the marker, all their involvement in today's events, and of course Next County historian Dennis Latta and
about a year after that, in 1845, they became merchants. They were not peddlers for very long. Quite often.
I can talk to you after they're going to unveil it. There will be an after program as well.
And that's all for this edition of First City Focus. For everyone here at Vincennes PBS, I'm Allyson Bowers. Join us again next week.
First City Focus is supported in part by Duke Energy, powering the lives of its customers and communities. Online at duke-energy.com. Andy Ellerman of First City Wealth, serving Vincennes and surrounding communities to help with investing and planning for your future before and during retirement years. First City Wealth online at firstcitywealth.com. Colonial Assisted Living, Colonial is an assisted living residence, promoting independence and dignity for each resident while providing the necessary assistance for daily living. Colonial Assisted Living, 1622 South Hart Street Road in Vincennes, 812-895-1504. And by donations contributed by Vincennes PBS viewers like you. Thank you.